Greetings, QCS build fans. Well, taking a look here, we got a whole bunch of Unifi equipment. So, what are we doing? Well, what we're doing is we're finally gonna upgrade my client's network at his bowling alley. And so this is the same client that we did the Odin NVR in, and the camera system and the Unifi camera system at. And now currently they are running 30 cameras with a hodgepodge of they have the G3 bullets, the G3 Bullet Pros, and the G3 Flex cameras on that, running off a US 48 500 watt switch, PoE 500 watt switch. So what we're doing now is we're going back in, we're adding wireless, because right now they're just running off a Nighthawk, I believe it's a 9600, so it's the big tri-band unit. It works fairly well until they get about anywhere over about 100 people on the wireless at the same time, and then it totally just completely doesn't have enough power to be able to process that much wireless data, and it just kind of freaks out. So we've got that. We're going to change that out. That's what these guys are for. We've got 3 of our Unifi HD AC-HD access points here. These are a 4+4 MIMO AC wireless antenna setup. So these are pretty new actually in the Unifi world. So these are going to be awesome because we're going to run let's see, so we're going to run 2 SSIDs off of these. So we're going to run a private side and we're going to run a guest side. The big reason for this is the guest network. So we need to be able to run an entire C-class subnet on the guest wireless. So each one of these APs, according to Unifi, is capable of handling about 500 clients per unit. So right here we've got roughly about 1,500 client capability. About the normal, many people as you're going to get in the building at any one time is going to be roughly about 1,000. So we should be good. 2 of these are going to go inside. 1 of these is going to go outside in the new beer garden. These are also indoor-outdoor rated. So, yeah, this is going to make installation super, super simple. We've also got, for 2 of these, we got the U Pro MP, which is the mounting plate. If any of you are network pros or wireless pros, you've probably seen a very similar setup for the Cisco Meraki units, where these attach to the grid, then you attach the plate to these, and then you attach this to the plate. Makes it so for drop ceiling, you're just attaching to the grid and you don't have to drill holes inside the ceiling tiles or anything like that to mount them. Very cool. Really keeps the mess down that way. So, plus it makes them very serviceable because there's actually just enough gap back behind them to where you can pop them off the mounting plate, you know, reseat them or whatever you need to do, and then pop them back in and you're good to go. Let's see, the other 2 parts of this is we've got, this is Unifi's new 48 port Pro switch. Now there's a Pro switch and there's a Pro PoE switch. We were going to go with the Pro PoE switch because that way we could bypass where we got 3 individual units instead of the 5-pack or higher. These come with the power injectors for these. We were going to go with the PoE so that way we could just eliminate the power injectors altogether. However, that switch is 1, it's about $1,200. 2, it's also at current time of filming, 2021, July of 2021, it is on back order for another 2 to 3 months. So, not happening. We need to get this done. And so, we went ahead and went with the 48 Pro, which has the same port configuration. It just doesn't have the PoE capability on it. The advantage to that, however, is we save about, let's see, this switch is about, I want to say about $700 retail, give or take. So with that extra savings, we were able to go through, get a battery backup, and we got a new patch panel and everything for their closet, so that way we can clean up the disaster that it is right now. You're going to see pictures and everything later on. We're going to do snapshots of everything so you can see what we started with as an absolute disaster closet to what we're going to end up with, which is a very, very cleaned up version of that closet. And this is an older building. So this building was built back in the 60s. It has old phone lines still coming into it. So you'll see the 66 punch blocks in there. You'll see the little bit of remediation that we've been able to do under budget with just some off-the-shelf 12-port mini patch panel blocks that you would pick up at Home Depot, kind of thing, and go through and actually punch everything into patch blocks, where before we didn't even have that. Everything was just, extended patch cables all the way back to the closet, and then plugged it either into a switch or into a router. And so, yeah, so it's kind of a big giant, even now it's still a big giant mess in there, and we'll go through it later on, but yeah, it's getting cleaned up, finally it's getting cleaned up. So we got this guy going in here, and then we also have our Gateway Pro. So I thought about originally going with just the standard USG gateway. The problem is that is a dual core unit, or yeah, so I believe that's a quad. Yeah, so it's half the processing capability of this one. I don't remember specific specs, but I know for example that the other deployments that we've done with the USGs, that if you run a lot of internet traffic in and out of the location, that particular unit can get overwhelmed. Well, those sites might have as many as 20 to 30 clients using the internet simultaneously. This site's going to have a maximum of about 1,000. So we need some horsepower in the gateway department. The other advantage to this too is you can see on here we've actually got dual LAN and dual WAN capability. So where the other one gives you either gives you WAN, dual WAN, and single LAN, or gives you single WAN and dual WAN because of it's only got 3 ports. This has 4 ports. Now you're going to see, well, this has got 6. Well, no, because these SFP ports over here on the side are gigabit fiber links for the WAN side. So then that way, if you're connecting directly to a fiber circuit, you can just connect directly to your local fiber provider and you don't have any issues there. It just eliminates an interface basically. So, but yeah, so we're going to put this guy in. This should more than enough be able to handle the amount of traffic that we're going to run. The other issue too is that the client has, because it's a bowling alley, their electronic scoring system is on its own separate network, but it does connect to the internet. And so what we have to do is, what we're going to do is instead of right now, we're running the router, which is behind the cable broadband router, and then there's another router firewall that's behind that for the scoring system. So we're running a NAT on top of a NAT on top of a NAT. Not the most efficient way to run things. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to take and we're going to split the networks out at the firewall, because we'll actually be able to do it this time, and put them on two totally different networks internally. And so it'll work way more efficiently, and it'll be better isolated that way. So, because we're going to run all together, we're going to end up running three LANs on the inside of this. So we're going to run the scoring LAN, which is a class. Let's see, we're going to run the scoring LAN, which is a class D. We're going to run the internal network, which is a class C, and then we're going to run the guest network, which will be a full class C. So subnet. So that's that. Oh, and then you're probably wondering what these guys are. So these are SFP plus RJ45 10 gig adapters. And then what these do is these are going to go from our 48 Pro here back to our 48 PoE 500, which is running our cameras, and it'll trunk these two together. The advantage to being out of doing that is later on, one, it's going to free up a port on our 48 500. It's going to free up one extra port on that, because right now there's only like maybe 10 ports available on that switch. So we're going to free up another port on there by moving it over to this, and then that's also going to give us a 10 gig backhaul from the two switches. Now, do we really need 10 gigs? Probably not, because really all of that line is running is just internet back and forth. But it gives us the versatility later on to where if we need to run more access points or more cameras or something else, we don't necessarily have to put them on the PoE switch. We can put them on the 48 Pro switch. And then we don't have to worry about latency between the two switches. And so it'll just give us that much more versatility in future deployments, add-ons, upgrades, and whatever. So, but that's it. So that's the overview. Let's get it all put in, shall we? Alright, so here you can see this is the spaghetti disaster that we started with. You can see we've got our Fortinet firewall hanging around up here on top, which is actually sitting somewhat on top of our Netgear Nighthawk. So yeah, it's just a mess to no end. Down here at the bottom, you can see we have our phone cable broadband modem, and then we have our actual internet broadband modem, which is kind of laying sideways on this funky shelf over here. So yeah, this is what happens when, one, you don't clean everything up to begin with, and two, when you have multiple technicians making a mess of things inside your closet. Believe it or not, this is not the worst I have ever seen in nearly 20 years of doing IT work, but it's definitely not one of the better ones by a long shot. So, alright, so from there, you can also see this is the backside of our Fortinet FortiGate router, and then we have our Netgear switch, which is also running part of our scoring system. So, so yeah, this is just a spaghetti factory to absolutely no end. So here you can see that, like most IT storage closets, they get turned into, well, a storage closet. And so here you can see that we've got our vertical rack mount
already installed on this supporting 2x4 up here. We haven't really messed around with any of the cabling just yet. We're just trying to kind of keep it from being in the way. But we've got our battery backup installed, and with our Startech computer wall mount. So yeah, with this I actually took and I used the Startech computer wall mount, which is slightly too big for a battery backup. However, if you take a piece of the foam packaging out of the battery backup and use that as a spacer to fill the gap, it will actually clamp into that battery backup perfectly fine, and then you can strap it over. And it actually works really well like that. Keeps it up, out of the way, it's not on the floor, so you don't have to worry about shock hazards or anything like that. So totally great. Okay, so from here you can see that we've got our 48 port switch, and we've got our gateway installed and mounted into our vertical wall mount rack, and then we've got them plugged in. On the next slide here you can see that we've gone ahead and we've started hooking stuff up. So it's connected to the internet, it's connected the gateway is connected to the switch, and then we have our other trunk cable that's actually going back to our other switch. So, but at this point we still have everything is still running off the old Netgear switches, and we haven't moved anything over yet. So, but you can see we've got everything nice and installed, and we just haven't started setting it up yet. So here you can see that we've got our AP number 1 installed next to a couple of our cameras on the low end of the house, and then we got our AP number 2 installed in about the upper 2/3 of the house. And inside here we actually got really good coverage. We have like 0 issues inside the house at this point. And then you can see this is outside the beer garden, and it's mounted up above those mister fans, and you can see one of our cameras, our camera mounts that are installed and everything. So if you look at the camera mount, you can actually see that that is one of the custom camera mounts that my brother-in-law that runs Prestige Fence and Fabrication, he actually made those up for me, and those rings are totally awesome because I can mount the camera to the little pole, and then I can actually run the cable on the inside of the pole without having to like surface mount the camera directly to the building, and then having a kind of an uglier look to it. So, and of course the mount's in the shape of a bowling pin. So, and then this back access point back here gives us full coverage to the back lot. So, which is about, I would say it's roughly about an acre, maybe 3/4. And yeah, we have total full coverage in the back beer garden area. So it works out really well, coverage wise. Then we go back to the closet. Now here at this point you can see we've got our power injectors installed. They're kind of temporarily cabled up and everything, and we've got everything running at this point. We've cut everything over to the switch and the new gateway. We've relocated our FortiGate router and our smaller Netgear switch for our scoring system. Those have been relocated to the wall, and then those are plugged into the secondary LAN on the gateway. And then we've removed our 16 port Netgear switch. that was there. Also, we've taken out the little shelf that the internet cable modem sits on, and we've taken and wall mounted the cable modem. So let's see, what else have we done? Oh, at this point we've also taken the all the big black coax line for the TVs, and we've kind of temporarily relocated that over to the far corner of the closet. So, and at this point it's still kind of a work in process, but everything is up and running, and it's working, and it's working great, and everything's configured, and zero issues. Totally super solid system. Almost zero issues at all whatsoever. It's actually really great to work with. And here you can see this is our finished wide shot. So we've got all of our power is now ran into our battery backup. Our surge protector and everything's all ran into the battery backup. All of our routers, our modems, our switches and everything are all either run into the battery backup or into the surge protector, which is then run into the battery backup. We've got everything nice and neatly tied up for our power injectors. We've got all of our cable is nicely as humanly possible. Cable managed and tied up. This doesn't really give you a good view of it, but nothing is sticking out away from the wall. Everything is pretty much nice and tidy up against the wall, so we don't really have to worry about too much if somebody sets a broom or a mop or is moving stuff around in there. They're gonna snag anything and try to rip it off the wall, which was an issue at one point in time, unfortunately. And then what else do we got? We've got our coax cable that's fairly neatly kind of tied up against the wall. You can see it kind of loops around like a giant big old hunk of licorice up around those light switches up towards the top. And then we've got our 48 port patch panel installed, which cleans everything up way nicely, way better than how it was before. And then it's also serviceable now, so we can more easily get in there, and if we need to add drops or anything else, we've got room to be able to do it. So a lot of this, we could have gone with a 24 port instead of a 48, but the cost difference between a 24 port and a 48 port isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. So this gives us all the expandability in the world if we need to add more equipment, new registers, whatever. We can do that with absolute ease, and with the way we've got everything kind of mostly neatly organized, we actually freed up some real estate on our backboard on the wall, so then that way we can add more power injectors, or we can add another component in here, or anything else that we need to later on down the road. So alright, so that's basically it. So like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions, then please give us a yell, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.